Hello, VC. Hello, folks. What's going on? I recently watched a few videos and realized how long it had been since I had really watched some people's videos who are longtime mainstays of the VC. Namely, I watched Chris 4127 Basket recently, digging with Big Star 1000, and quite a while ago, I just got out of the habit of going to his channel, and a lot of it really had to do with, Fred. Fred being a very astute student of music and the variety of what he buys, is astounding, right on point, of great interest to my way of choosing and buying music as well. And so, I get really jealous, but I'm going to start trying to watch a little bit more, reconnect. That's how it feels. It's like I need to reconnect with some people, really be a part of the BC, which I am, but you know what? I think you know what I'm saying. Anyway, I think what I'd like to do is take this opportunity to respond to a comment in my last video. Vinyl Obscurity, who used to run a blog, and I'm thinking I know this blog, used to read it, shared with me that he or she, I'm not sure that it's a guy, that they had recently bought a Norman and the Rockwells EP, and wanted to know more about it because I play on it, and actually I do more than play on it. That was my first record, and the band. So let me try to just give a little background. He wanted to know more about it, and sometimes my memory of things is a little cloudy, but I'll share what I remember, what I can remember of it. I started playing in bands in the 70s, and my first couple of bands were hard rock bands, and a funk soul jazz band with my brothers and my dad. And then the next band of significance for me, or really one of the first real significant band for me, was Norman and the Rockwells. We got together, don't quote me, but I'm thinking the band got together probably about 1980. Okay, yeah. Because the EP, we released this in 1981, my very first record ever. And the story with Norman and the Rockwells is that I had been in a hard rock band called Full Clip that was doing kind of biker rock and blues. And as punk started to catch hold in the Midwest, I started to transition that band into playing more punk-like music, like Ramones and Boomtown Rats and Devo. And then that band broke up. I forget. Excuse me. No, it was through the guitar player John Hartley in Full Clip, who was the newest member. When the band broke up, we became friends. And it turns out that these people, Norman and the Rockwells, was a group of his high school friends and associates who would... anyway, that led to the forming of the band Norman and the Rockwells. And we all had a shared interest in Frank Zappa, Todd Rundgren. That really helped to bring this group of people together, those two musicians, and an interest in, most of the guys are really into comedy, and at that time when I was younger, I have a sense of humor. I used to be pretty funny at times. But anyway, so we started out doing covers, a lot of Utopia, a lot of Todd Rundgren songs, Split Ends, kind of the new wave sort of, that's what it was at the beginning of the 80s. And then we started writing, and one thing led to another, and we put our money together and pressed up maybe 500 copies of this 7-inch EP, the very first vinyl that I ever released. Being a lifetime geek about music and records, being born in '55 and encountering music through the radio and records, it just really became very important to me early on in life that one of the things I wanted to accomplish in life was just to make a record. And when this happened, this was just like, I'd gone to heaven. And this is the very first piece of vinyl that I appear on. Norman and the Rockwells. We came up with we used to do a lot of weasel jokes. Jerome Brick from the band, I believe, was the guy to blame for the weasel references. And I forget the jokes. But it was weasel this and weasel that. And so we decided to call the label for the first release Weasel Wecords, not records. Again, a sense of humor. Weasel Wecords. 4-track EP. Kind of topical. There's a song on there that was really popular when we played live. Ronnie Ray Gun, like a ray gun. You can't see the title on here. That's on there. Does it sound... am I embarrassed by this record? I won't be embarrassed by it, but does it sound dated, slightly amateurish in ways? Probably to some, but I'm still proud of it. I'm going to go ahead and put this on. So, that's my first record. Dean Dobmeyer singing, Tom Ware on drums, who also recorded, engineered, produced this. This was his introduction to the studio work. We took the picture in front of the building that I worked at for years, St. Joe Center for Mental Health, which is how we decided to call the EP the Mental Health EP. That's me in the center I had yellow pants, and even though there was no particular leader of the band, and I wasn't the leader of the band, I think along with the other members, each one of us really brought something to the band unique, and I think that the band and the audience acknowledged all of us, I don't know necessarily equally, but pretty equally, that as a unit, Norman and the Rockwells was pretty strong. I put on some pretty theatrical live shows too, involving liver, chainsaws, and all kinds of props. We had a couple shows where we did freak the audience out. They weren't sure what was happening at one point, which is what we wanted. It was fantastic. I do not have any of these for sale. I just have a couple of copies. I have a decent copy, and then I have my original copy that when it came out, which is pretty beat, as you can imagine. Being my first record, I had to show it to everyone, play it for everyone. There are copies about, and they're online. And I dare say that as time continues to go on, the records that I play on continue to increase in collectible value. And so this is one. This is my first record, Norman and the Rockwells. Norman and the Rockwells. And the name of the band was come up by this guy, Jerome, with the long hair, Jerome Brick. Everyone here in the picture still play. Well, Dean with the checkered shirt, he runs shows. John, but we're all still musicians. We are. A couple years ago, we tried to initiate a reunion. Pardon me. We actually had rehearsals, and then John's third or fourth kid came along, and you know what that does. So that's a little more information for you, Vinyl Obscurity, about this record. I do say that Tom Ware, the drummer, probably still has boxes of these in his closet. I don't know if he has boxes or one box, but it's the typical story of many bands where you make a record and you're really hopeful and then you can't sell it and then they end up sitting in obscurity and being thrown away or something. Tom's hanging on to them. I keep threatening to say to him, hey, let me get some and I'll sell them, and I never do it. So if you're looking for this, it is available, online. There are sellers selling this. Okay, that was my first record. Now I'll just keep going from there for a little bit. That experience and being involved with this was pressed by United Pressing, the plant that Jack White bought from White Stripes fame. That's who that's who we went to press our first record. I followed the process as closely as I could, which led to me releasing my first record the next year, Derek, my first 7-inch EP, and I followed up on Weasel. We had started with this, the first record on Weasel, and at the time my thought was to have some consistency, and it was also still made in a way in the spirit of Norman and the Rockwells, or at that time that was what was still going on. And so my very first 7-inch is on the same label. I just endeavored to put out another Weasel Records release. So there's that consistency. Now the Derek EPs are much harder to find. I only had pressed, whereas there's probably 500 of the Norman and the Rockwells, I think at most there's 250 of the Dereks. But as you see, had them both on Weasel Records. And this is online on my Bandcamp page. I'm certain, that I've got this on my Bandcamp page so you can hear it. But I'll put this on in the background. At the time, I was, transitioning musically from playing hard rock into what I was more interested in, which was progressive rock and just different stuff. So on my first EP, here's me doing Bright Lights, which is me playing everything. And so when people heard this and still hear it, they hear in the voice and kind of a bit of the way that I'm playing it, they hear a Joy Division influence, which is there, but I'll go ahead and let the cat out of the bag. The riff was completely taken from blues. Train Kept a Rolling. I loved Aerosmith's version of it, That's where the riff is from. So this was my next vinyl release, Derek. And my older brother designed it, came up with that drawing for me. At the time, I was still into industrial music, always interested in psychedelic, electronic, and noise and weird music. This next track is a soundscape. So on my very first record, I wanted to put on a piece of sound work. This has been a part of what I do from the very beginning. This is Payphone. This will be a little harder to find. I don't have any copies extra. A little story behind this is when my band RAF, the punk band that's back together and currently going, back in the 80s, we played a big show in Omaha opening for the Dead Kennedys. And it was a great show. And after the show, I was hanging out with Jello Biafra and really vibed up with him, really got along with him, and found out that he was a record collector, and he found out about I told him about my records. And we exchanged addresses, and he said he wanted to get a copy of this, and I was excited by the fact that he wanted one, but I just because of my own silly head, I never followed through with sending him a copy. And what happened was, years later, he sends me a letter, hey, what about that record? I want to get this record, which was cool. And I don't know what I did, but I eventually ended up getting a copy to him when he came through Omaha again years later on a spoken word tour. So Jello Biafra is a proud owner of this EP. So that was my second record. And I just liked the experience and was able to put it together financially. It was like such a small run that I went ahead and did Derek 2, another 7-inch EP, and this was the next year, 83 is what it says on here. See, I get a little fuzzy. Again, designed by my older brother James, great artist. There in my Residents t-shirt, I had gone to see the Residents do the Mold show. What year was that? 82, so the same year as the year before releasing this, so I proudly wore that shirt for the picture for the back cover. This is more ambient, instrumental, more close to the sound of the band Digital Sex, moving into what I do currently. It's my sound, melodic, simple, but a lot of atmosphere. And once again, I may be misspeaking. There may only be 150 of these, because these just don't show up. It's probably not 250 a piece. It's probably 150 of these that I have the paperwork, in my files buried somewhere that I could go and look it up and look at the orders and find out. But it's been years since I've looked at that stuff. I'm glad that Vinyl Obscurity bought Norman and the Rockwells. For one thing, I don't make any money out of it, but the legacy of the records lives on. And I think that, I can't speak for other musicians, but that's probably one feather in the cap about records that live on beyond the life of the band and become collectible for money. It's bittersweet, whereas people are trading our records for big money, and we couldn't sell them when they came out. The sweet part of it is that somehow something that we did still has value to someone. And so that's the way that I take the fact that these are collector's items as a compliment, even though I couldn't hardly sell them when they came out. And then I'm pretty sure that the next record I made, because by this time I had started the band Digital Sex, and then the next record I made was this 7-inch single by Digital Sex, Dervish Dance, How Many More Times. This I'm pretty sure we made 500 copies. Now I'm not sure, but I know these are all gone, except I have a few which I'm holding on to. I would like to use them as bargaining chips. If someone is interested in having a copy, I have some, but I'd like to get some money for them. I would, Otherwise, they can sit in my closet. But I've got a few of these, and these I still remember the day of the. Ooh, this is a bad cover. I know I've got a better cover than this, but when we had the covers made with the gold ink on the paper that we had looked for, this particular black paper, and having them silk screened on, Steve Sheehan came up with the label Post-Ambient Motion. I know I've got a better copy of this. I should put a better copy of this in my box, in my discography box. This one's beat. But this again is 1983, is it? Yep, 1983 is when we put this out. And, there's still, in my mind, there's no controversy about the band. When I see the singer, Steve, I always say hello. He won't speak to me, He's mad. I'm not mad anymore. I'm ready to, talk anytime, But I would want to talk about things, It's like clear the air, you know what I mean? this band was a big accomplishment for me. At the time, with what was going on in my life, I thought this was the greatest thing I'd ever done. I'm happy to say that I've done a lot more since, but at the time it was very significant. So it's something I'd like to have put to rest, or make peace with the other person. Some other records I made at the time, I've always been in multiple bands. Once I got started playing music, I just play. I like to play a lot of different stuff. So I was also in a band called Disco Ranch, and we made a 7-inch EP. This one is very collectible because most of the copies were destroyed by one of the people that paid for it. It's a long story, but you know how things can go sour behind the scenes when it comes to putting these things together. But this was a band that I joined. I'm on the record, not on the cover. I helped produce it. Joe Budenholzer, better known by folks who know goth music as Backworld. He also was a touring member of Fetus. He has an album that he made with Lydia Lunch. But this was his band at the same time as when I had Digital Sex going. And I ended up joining his band, playing keyboards and bass, and we made this single, Disco Ranch. And it's been compared to Devo, which I think is a good comparison. This is harder to find. There's a few, but every now and then I see this on eBay, every now and then. Also at the same time, Joe and I were involved with a local artist named Frank Novak, who actually got in trouble for parodying Mutual of Omaha's logo. At the time, we were protesting nuclear waste wanting to be stored in Nebraska, so made this single called That Dang Bomb. And the band, even though it wasn't a band, but the project was called Frankie and the Mutations. And here on the back of here, you can see where that's Frank's logo. Made the news, made national news. He got sued by Mutual of Omaha because he started calling it Mutant of Omaha, with the whole nukes thing, I'm pretty sure he lost, and had to pay money to Mutual. But we got the record out. If you look this up online, Frankie and the Mutations, this is the very first video I appear in. This was like 1983 or 4. This was 1983. It was really busy. No, let me look closer. 1985 was when we made this. So, and you can see I'm on an upright bass, and we're all made up like we're survivors of a nuclear attack. But a very young version of me is in that video. This one I have not seen online for sale. I think this is probably, if you wanted to complete your Derek Higgins discography, this would be hard to find. If you can find this, let me know. I have not seen this for sale at all anywhere. Another record I made before that I will mention because at the time Steve and I were very good friends. The lead singer of Digital Sex, Steve, when he had made his own EP, 7-inch, Steve Sheehan, Recovery. And I play bass on some of the songs, not the whole record. And also bass player from The Click, from Lincoln, and just want to make sure I don't want to misspeak here. Okay. This isn't bad, This is actually a decent record. And again, a part of my early discography. Steve Sheehan, Recovery. I have heard from BC members who have found copies of this in the last couple of years, and have bought it. So, man, it's 24 minutes already. Where does the time go? I'm going to stop here for now. I have a few more singles, but that's the beginning of my discography. And I still have records for sale. I haven't sold nothing sold in weeks. A couple of weeks now I haven't sold any records. They're still available. Murphy, Flyover, Nice. Myth is all gone. And I need to try to, and I'll do this publicly because maybe this will help. I had missed a pre-order, Mark Brand, I'll say your name. I got it to you. Hopefully you got it by now. But he had contacted me recently asking if I had sent out his pre-order. And I looked and it's like, oh my God, I had missed it. Another friend in Omaha had let me know that he would like a copy of Myths, and so I had put his name on it and set it aside. He hadn't paid for it yet, but what turns out is that I heard from Mark, who had already paid for a copy, and I'd missed it. So I got a hold of this other person and said, I don't think he understood, but I said, I missed a pre-order. The only copy I have left is the one I'm holding for you, which you hadn't paid for yet. And I said, I don't know how I worded it, but I need to honor this prepaid order. And I understand that, the friend, I've messaged him. I haven't heard back yet. I try, I guess he's upset thinking that I snubbed him, that I took his copy and sold it to somebody else. That's not what I did. Okay, I'm saying it publicly here, that I'm not saying the person's name, who I understand got his feelings hurt. I think he misunderstood what I did. I'm saying it right here. I've messaged the person. I hate for misunderstandings, and I'm always flabbergasted how when you get along with people and then you have a perceived misstep or problem, how all of a sudden you turn into the devil incarnate in another person's mind. That's why I always say we live in the mind and we see what we see. Reality is just what we experience. So anyway, I would like to get this straightened out with my friend, who I consider a friend. I didn't sell your copy. I needed to honor this pre-order that I had somehow overlooked or thought I had filled, and then I would look back and see, no, it had not been filled. It wasn't on purpose, It's not my style. It's not the way I do, I'm sorry your feelings are hurt, and I'm sorry if somehow you have the perception that I would do something shitty like that to you or to anyone, Okay, talk to you soon, guys. And people, let's put it like that. This world is so crazy. This world is just so crazy. One last thing. I don't give a shit about the Dolezal thing. All this press and all this money being spent on that, and it don't mean shit in relation to the bigger picture about what's going on. How penny ante, what is the word where it's like you're gagging on a gnat, You know what I mean? It's like making a mountain out of a molehill. There are important things that should be addressed, and this just goes on and on about this woman, whether or not she's black. Fuck that. There's real news going on, This world is fucking crazy. And people that are in the media are just really doing us such a disservice. Selling misery and sensationalism, just focused on keeping the economy going, oblivious to the fact that you're wrecking the economy to make the money out of it, and it's time for a change. It really is.